Hey guys, welcome back to Just a Geek in the Garage. So similar to my pliers and ratchets series on Snap-on, I just kind of want to go over some of the Snap-on handles that I currently have, and which ones I like, which ones I why I use them in what scenarios, maybe some honorable mentions for some other brands, and things like that. So what I have here in front of you, these are all going to be just Phillips number 2. I didn't want to grab a ton of different screwdrivers and have them here in front of you, since we all know a Phillips number 2 is going to be, for most of us at least, our kind of go-to screwdriver. So here we kind of see the evolution of the Snap-on handles. This isn't all inclusive. Obviously, there's other ones out there, but you have kind of their older classic ones. I think these were the ones made 88 and prior. Before they kind of switched to these the classic hard handles that we have here. But something like this still works very, very well. I mean, even this is the original tip that I have on here, and it still functions pretty well. I might need to get it replaced here at some point, but if I did, I would just have my dealer replace just the shank itself, because it's kind of this nice vintage handle, and it's nice to kind of have in the collection. Feels very nice. One thing that's nice about this guy is, as you can see, even though it's a Phillips number 2 and the shank is going to be the same length as pretty much all these other ones, the handle itself is much smaller. So this is the guy that I would probably grab when I'm working on a little bit tighter of a space where I might not be able to fit one of these guys in there. Next up is the hard handles, and this is going to be kind of your classic. A lot of guys, when they think of Snap-on screwdrivers or ratchets, this is the handle that they kind of think of. It's it's a four-sided design, but it does fit very well. Has a nice place for your thumb. You can get a lot of torque on these. These ones are the ones I typically I'm gonna grab when I'm working on something that's dirtier, where I might get grease or something on there, because I can just wipe it off, and usually I can get them nice and clean again. As you can see here, I mean, this guy, just to give you an example, this is the one I've had this one for about 25, maybe closer to 30, actually no, about 25 years. And this was my daily driver when I was working. I used to do car audio installation, electronics, alarms, all that kind of good stuff. And this was my daily driver for about almost 2 years. And I still use it quite a bit to this day. And it still looks just as good as new, because I can always wipe it off and go from there. So to a lot of you guys that have mentioned on my videos that my tools look too clean, I just happen to clean them after every use, because if you're spending a lot of money on a tool, I like to keep them clean. I know some guys feel that if your tools aren't dirty, that you're not using them, but hey, to each their own. I just like to keep my tools clean, because I've spent quite a bit on these. But last up here is going to be their current instinct handle, which is going to be the ones that you typically see on the Snap-on truck now. This one happens to be the soft grip, so it has a little bit of a grippy texture to it. These ones you can still clean up pretty well if you get them dirty, but this is going to be kind of the go-to if I have enough space on what I'm working on. This is going to be probably my most grabbed Phillips number 2 if I'm using just a standard screwdriver. If I'm not using a standard screwdriver, it's probably going to be something like their ratcheting guy, which I did a video on these guys before. But if spaces, if you can't get the shank here in where it needs to go, then something like this I'm going to pick up all day long. Now, a couple of honorable mentions is, if I was gonna buy these all over again, what I'd probably do is I would probably skip the actual Snap-on hard handles themselves, because there's been this guy kind of hiding in plain sight, which I did a video on this set before. This is actually Williams. As we all know, Williams is owned by Snap-on. They acquired them, I think, about 25, 30 years ago. And when I use this versus this, I can't tell the difference. And for a fraction of the price, I would use the Williams all day long. So in the future, if I was to have purchased these, I would probably skip the actual Snap-on and gone with this right here. This, I would still buy the Snap-on. I still definitely recommend this guy. And this one, if you guys don't know, they actually sell the soft grip and the hard handle, which looks almost identical. It's hard to tell the difference until you touch it. I actually had a set of the hard handle ones. For some reason, I didn't like those as much. Maybe because I typically grab this for a hard handle. I actually ended up selling them But those are there, especially for you guys that are going to get a lot of grease on those. They're probably going to clean up a little bit better than the soft grip right here. But as I kind of mentioned before, I have a couple of honorable mentions, as far as other tool truck brands, if this is what you're looking for. If you're watching this video, I assume you're somebody that likes tool truck brands, or at least, maybe somebody that hates them and just wants to talk negatively in the comments. But either way, Cornwell, I've never really had any Cornwell tools. I recently found a dealer nearby, and he's been great to me. Cornwell has a lot of sales on their trucks, and so I've been reaching out every time I see a flyer for a few tools that I want to buy. The nice thing about the Cornwell is that the grip is a similar size to the hard handle. It's not oversized like the Trilobe Instinct grip, but it has a very, very nice feeling to it. So it's kind of a nice in-between in these two. Now, one disclaimer is Cornwell, their screwdriver sets tend to be as expensive, if not more expensive, than Snap-on for regular pricing. And I believe they're made in Taiwan. They're not USA made. But, when these things are on sale, they're usually an excellent deal. So if you guys have the ability to find a Cornwell dealer, and you can't actually buy Cornwell online, at least that I've seen, unless you buy it, third party on eBay. But if you can find a Cornwell dealer and they're having a good sale on these, I would definitely take a look at these. And kind of same thing with the Mac tools. Also not made in the USA, but when they're having a sale on these, they tend to be a pretty good price. They're usually around maybe $99 for like an 8-piece set, and that would be the same with Cornwell. Also, so you're paying about half the price, maybe a little bit less than you would for the Snap-on versions. If USA made is important to you, which it is, to me, I have a good majority of my tools are USA made, but I do like to try out other tool truck brands and other tool brands in general. But tell me, what do you guys think? Do you think it's going Williams versus Snap-on is a good idea? I know Williams, still has a lifetime warranty, but you're not going to be able to get it replaced on the truck. And what do you think about me keeping this, old vintage handle versus swapping it out for a new one? So again, just want to do a quick video for you guys just to show you different Snap-on handle types and which, what I use for what application. Again, comment down below. Let's have a discussion about these guys. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.